Okay, it is showtime. We did about 100 sound checks, and here we are. Finally, it's my fault. Episode 71 of Adventures in Adversity. This is a podcast where we feature real people who tell true stories, essentially about how they have turned life's adversity in its many, many forms into an adventure. And I always say, and I've learned that that adventure is actually the life that we're living every day. So, with that, I wanted to introduce and thank you so much for joining Jonathan Schwartz.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here with you today. Thank you so much.
Yes, and I can already tell how kind you are because you've been so patient. I maybe had him do 17 sound check tests because I couldn't figure out the microphone. So we're just working through those little technical things. But um, I'm very, very grateful to have you on. And I always say, anyone who comes on the podcast, you whether you like it or not, you're now part of the Adventures in Adversity family. And
Oh,
I mean that in that, you know, I really want this to be a place where people just talk authentically about life and the things they've learned, the mistakes they've made. And so it just kind of creates this place where anyone who's listening knows that this is a place where they're going to learn something and not feel alone in what they're going through, you know? Because we all have it. We all have adversity. Um,
absolutely.
so with that, I'm gonna, and I said this last time, I'm gonna stop talking at some point. I like to just introduce my guests a little bit, but you you have quite a story, and so does everybody, right? But I think there's something about your story, and I think the word that comes to mind for me is courage, courage to share it, courage to open yourself up to criticism, to judgment, which we all, I think, as humans are kind of like. So and then what I really commend you for is taking that really difficult situation that you have very openly talked about, which we'll get into, and you're like, how can I make this into something that's going to help people?
Yes,
And like, that's cool because it's easy to give up after you go through stuff like that, right?
absolutely.
So
There
with
was
that, oh, go ahead.
no, please.
I, and but and obviously there's a portion of your life your that was very public, and that adversity. But I've learned on this show that there's so many chapters and there's so much adversity that probably led up to that you now know how to handle afterwards in a different way. So if you don't mind, I would love to kind of go back to the beginning of growing up and all of that. And I think we actually have something in common. You're from upstate New York, right?
I certainly am. Are you?
I was born in Buffalo.
Oof.
So I know people are like, "Oh, beautiful,
Yes. I
tropical."
uh I grew up in the Catskills.
Okay, yes,
So,
and yeah, my dad's actually Buffalo born and raised, like still, Buffalo Bills, like still like, um. But yeah, okay. So tell me about your childhood, and I know a little bit, but I'd love for our audience to kind of get to know you a little bit.
sure. Grew up, as I said earlier, in the Catskills.
Yeah.
Father left me and my younger brother and mother when I was 4 years old.
Yeah.
Um, it forced my mom to take three jobs and put a roof over our head, but food in our mouths and clothes on our back. And it was definitely instability in terms
Mhm.
of like moving from this house or that house or this living environment or other. But my mother was young. She wasn't prepared to be a single parent. Today I understand that and respect that, but during my childhood, I thought this is how a child is supposed to be brought up, with such instability and otherwise. So my mom took out a lot of stress on me.
Mm.
For that, that was my trauma.
Mhm.
Trauma that I did not have the courage to seek help for almost 46 years. There's a lot about my childhood I still do not remember.
Mhm.
Um, I've worked with therapy, in therapy, excuse me, doing EMDR,
Yeah.
and that was effective. It's an effective modality. But it was hard for me to kind of flush everything out. But I'm no longer searching for the why or the woo me, and and use any of this as an excuse for all the adversity that I experienced in my life when
Yeah.
there was that point in my life where I could make choices.
Yep. Yep. Well, no, and I think it's the accountability is what I respect a lot about you is that you're very transparent and accountable, and I think you really in the episodes I was listening to before and just your Instagram, I really love how authentic you are when you talk about it. I appreciate, but I am such a firm believer in like your childhood really, really impacts your life. Like and it doesn't mean you're not accountable for the decisions you make later, but it's once you start going and doing that inner child work and the therapy and the EMDR and the all the things I like love doing, you're like, whoa, yeah, okay, I see why that might have been a problem later on, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, there's clinical evidence that supports that. And now in my new career, which we'll talk about later, I'm
Yeah,
sure, that I've learned that, adverse childhood experiences can carry, those experiences, and I certainly did, into my own adolescence and adulthood. And
sure.
while I say that a lot of times people say, well, it sounds like you're just making an excuse. No, I actually don't make an excuse for my experiences, but I am transparent today, which I wasn't in previous years. I do believe in authenticity, and
Yeah.
today I believe that asking for help is a strength. But for me, unfortunately, I didn't believe it was a strength during my dark period of my life. But I'm proud to say that if I could overcome it through adversity and resiliency, I'm sure most of your listeners listening with any challenges, I hope can embrace a challenge like I do as now an opportunity.
Mm, mm. Yeah, and you're growing up, and if anyone listening to this, they themselves had some abuse in their childhood or some traumatic experience, or maybe they have a niece or nephew or a just somebody that they're trying to guide through as a young person. If you look back on that time, and I'm sure there's blurry times, obviously, but if you could have given you what you needed at that time. Does anything come to mind like especially when a parent leaves, right? Like a dad. That's really really difficult. And while nobody can fill that place, like what were you seeking as a child? That if you could kind of think back.
I mean, using adult words today, which I did not know
Yeah.
existed as a child, I would say I was missing love, learning how to feel love, be loved, and then perhaps I would have learned how to transfer that love from me to others in my life as
Yeah.
I grew older, if you will.
Yeah.
Um, Nurturing is super important. I think just not having a role model growing up really impacted me
Yeah.
a lot. I didn't
Yeah.
really have anyone in my life. My mother's father, my grandfather, was probably the biggest role model growing up. He was just a unique man. He graduated high school when he was 15,
Wow.
but he had to give up his career or his college because he had to take care of his parents during that decade.
Time. Yeah.
So I really admired his resiliency and his commitment to help his family and put himself second. Um, but I really didn't have like anybody in my life that I looked up to, and so I felt like I was in survival mode most of my childhood, and then certainly into my active years of addiction that remained
Yeah.
my default.
Well, and you're what I've learned about the body too, like you were probably in like a fight or flight state for so long too. You're so it changes everything. I mean, I just can't believe how much your body holds. I didn't know that your tissue and your your cells hold trauma. I'm like, wait, what? I was like, I don't understand. I don't. I thought it's all just like in your head. You just thought it's like up
Sure.
here. But my therapist, she's like, that's in your tissue and stuff, and you're like, okay, yeah,
Yes.
okay, yeah. So no, thank you for that. I always just there's so many kids, and moms and dads, single moms, single dads, that they're just doing the best they can, one day at a time to pay the bills, especially now. Everything's just people are struggling. So I but what's good to know is that you know it's possible to pursue through that like that kind of childhood, right? It's something that you can revisit and try to heal. Obviously, try to.
Absolutely. And for me, unfortunately, it took longer than I wish it had. But you know what? It happened when it was supposed to happen for me, to hit my rock bottom and
Yeah,
to learn from all of my life experiences, the good, bad, and the indifferent. And to find the resilience and the drive internally for me was really a nice crossroad in my own journey.
yeah,
And it was super important. Like I often say, like, and it's the truth, like I don't live in my past, but I don't forget my past.
yeah. That's great. And had heard you say that on a previous podcast, and I was telling my husband about it. I was like, I love that you're like, you can't live there. You just can't. Like, how are you supposed if you live there? And I have things in my past too that I'm just like, I can't believe I did that. And even my husband will be like,
Right.
what are you going to do? Like, you have to move forward. It's so hard though sometimes.
Yeah, and in the 12-step program, we don't even say we have to anymore. It's like we
Mm,
get to, because
we
that's
get
like such a
to.
beautiful word that feels like in a sense of empowerment, right? Versus
Oh, we
we
get
don't do
to.
well, or I'll speak for myself, like I didn't do well with people telling me I had to do this or I have to do that because I was so insecure back in,
Yeah.
earlier in my life, that now I can substitute that word with I get to do it because it's a privilege and an honor to actually behave congruent with pro recovery behavior versus I don't expect people to believe the words out of my mouth anymore. It's through my actions.
Beautiful, beautiful. I'm actually never going to look at when someone says you have to move forward. That's always going to trigger now. You get to move forward. You literally get to create something totally new. Um,
Yes,
that's really, really beautiful because I know I guarantee someone listening to this um, would like to move forward with something, maybe forgetting something, and that they get to, not, oh, I have to. Because it's hard to heal when you feel like you have to heal,
that's right.
right? Like you get
Absolutely.
to heal. You get to like take another breath. You get to, you know, um, gosh, so many. I'm already feeling all the inspiration already. But and again, I probably sound like a stalker, but I know this about you because I've been listening to you to prepare for this. But so you grew up, and then you uh, ended up you went to college, right? But I think you spent some time on the East Coast and West Coast for college, right?
I did, because that instability of any living environment for me continued in
Okay.
college. So I went to three different colleges. I started out at CW Post in Long Island,
Okay.
freshman year. I then transferred to SUNY Albany in New York,
Okay.
and that didn't work out for me. And so I ultimately called my mom, and she was living in San Francisco, and I asked her if I can come finish my last year and a half of college. Can I live with her and my stepdad? And they said absolutely. And so my final school was SF State, which
Okay.
was it was really a good experience for me. It allowed me to get a job working in the financial district when I graduated. So
Yeah.
you know what, things worked out for me the way they were supposed to.
Sure.
When I think about my life today, I'm in a really beautiful place in this moment.
It's amazing. That's amazing. And I think that's wonderful to hear, I think because you've been through quite a lot and it just again, it's like a testament to I think the human spirit when you really kind of commit to changing and I think the biggest thing I've been hearing in all of the episodes I've heard with you is this asking for help is a strength that keeps coming up like that you're here and you're enjoying life because you had the courage to ask for that help, right? um, so in listening to some of the other episodes as well, it sounds like in you were you always sort of accounting minded, numbers minded, like did you know that that was the area you wanted to go into?
Yes, absolutely. I was not a
Yeah.
great student in high school. I was an average student in college. I never
Okay.
took my education seriously because, again, I still hadn't dealt with my trauma, and I had so much, I was financially unable to socialize with my fraternity brothers. I grew
Right.
up poor. But academically, I never excelled, but accounting was absolutely the only thing that really I loved
Okay.
because to me it was black and white. And I had seven cousins in my family that were CPAs, so that sort of helped motivate me to go in
Yeah.
that direction.
Yeah.
And yes, still to this day, it's probably the only subject I learn, although as I'm getting older, I certainly enjoy reading a lot more about
Oh,
all the diversity that exists out there for us to, gain knowledge from.
yeah. Yeah. It's so funny. Accounting and math is pretty much my worst nightmare. Just gonna go ahead and say that. I like had tutors, had like anxiety before every test. I'm like English major nerdy, like I'm like, "Oh, there's more than one answer, and let's write about it," you know? Whereas other people, yeah, that's like, math. But, yeah, okay, so you find yourself you're kind of, you were actually the bookie, right? For your fraternity?
Yes, so yes, that was the first entree into gambling for me.
Yeah,
It goes back to me wanting to be, welcomed into the fraternity brother social scene because they came
makes
from
sense.
affluent families
Oh, yeah.
in Long Island, and here I am, a country bumpkin from the Catskills. And I just came up with this concept that like, why don't I ask a fraternity brother if he wants to be a bookie? We'll be the bookies for the Greek system,
Uh-huh.
and we became the bookies for 2 weeks, and we lost like $10,000. And I was responsible for five, and he was responsible for the other five, and I couldn't pay the five. So now the pattern of me like escaping and going somewhere else and leaving someone behind that to take on my debt just
Mm,
was, in hindsight, was just completely wrong. And he had to take jobs just to pay his debt, not only his debt but mine, which still to this day I feel terrible about. But that was like the first entree because most bookies don't lose. They know how to kind of place, accept bets that
yeah.
no matter who wins or whatever the outcome is, at best they're 50-50 and they're getting their 10% vig. But we didn't even we were just so naive. We just figured we were big shots and we could
Yeah.
just win money.
And so do you remember and to me that wanting to be accepted, I mean that makes sense to me like as somebody who I mean you're you're coming from a lot especially, you're just trying to fit in with your peers and that's a way where you can sort of feel that sense of like belonging, like I'm kind of cool, I'm this, right? And I think at that age we're all seeking that and probably still now, right? Do you remember, was there, because I know you had a gambling addiction, do you remember feeling sort of that initial like rush of, was that the first time you're like, oh, this is kind of exciting? Was that the first gambling type thing?
Yeah, it was. It was the
Yeah,
first of another one that followed, and then obviously the gambling that was my ultimate demise. But
sure.
gambling really historically and or during that period where I became a compulsive gambler and literally addicted, I never received like or felt a dopamine rush.
Okay.
It was something that I was chasing the money
Mm,
so that I could repay the gambling debt. Even when I was even in college, I was just chasing it so that I could at that point hang out with my peers. Um, and then the second time I did it, I was working for my cousin's firm,
mhm,
and his partner said, "What do you want to place a bet?" I placed the bet. I lost $3,000 then, and I was still a young staff accountant now at this point.
mhm,
And his partner was kind enough, my cousin's partner was kind enough to pay for that debt. So, I'm gambling and I can't afford to pay it. Now, later on in my life, I become a partner in an entertainment business management firm. And in the first decade of that, I was doing well
mhm.
financially and felt good about myself. Um, and for me, that, once that gambling started, it was silly because I had a, high net worth,
Yeah.
and I just didn't take the money from myself. I chose to take it from clients and steal their monies. And that's why I'm on this podcast today, to be transparent with all of that.
Yeah. Well, and thank you for sharing and thank you for I always, I know you've told this story and you're comfortable telling it, but I don't discount that it takes a lot of courage to come on here and talk about it. And I think it's really easy for people to just be like, "Oh, I would never do that," or "Oh," and I just I see it differently. I think the fact that you're opening up to try to help people by like sharing so authentically is kind of reminds me that we're all human, and that if you're not careful, you can end up in some stuff that you maybe never thought you would ever end up in, right?
Right. Right, absolutely. I never thought I would violate my fiduciary responsibility to my clients or make these poor choices that could hurt countless people, including my three beautiful sons and at the time my wife and so many other people that I hurt. I never thought I would be that person,
Yeah.
but and there's no excuse for it. I mean, that's just a fact. I didn't take into consideration the negative consequences of my choices.
Uh-huh.
And as a result of that, there were severe consequences, all of which I deserved.
Mhm.
And I do own it because I want to advocate for on behalf of those out there struggling to take personal accountability for
Yeah.
their actions,
Yeah.
to not make excuses, to be authentic and transparent. I don't believe that I became authentic until I hit that rock bottom and felt the consequences.
Uh, I, you know, I can relate to that so much. That is so true. It's like your rock bottom, whatever that is for you, in whatever, whether it's like a marriage, an addiction, whatever it is, right? Mental health stuff. If you get up off that floor, like you're getting up like stripped of all the stuff. You can't, it's almost like a beautiful being real. You become so much more real. It's and for me, like I didn't love the way I got there either after this like narcissistic relationship, but I can tell you I love the person I am now. It,
Absolutely.
it wouldn't have been the way that I wanted to realize that. But tough shit, right? Like I made those choices too, right? So I,
Right.
you know, so I just I think we all have different forms of adversity, and then we all need to take personal accountability for our choices, both small choices every day and big choices. So, and I think you alluded to it. You ended up, so for those of you who aren't aware, you were a business manager for like high net worth individuals. You had learned the accounting through college, through I think your cousin's firm. So you were a sponge, right? You had mentioned that you were just learning everything. Um, One thing you mentioned, many people are so dazzled by these celebrities, right? Like, so, all the people. Um, you mentioned that when you were working with these high net worth individuals, that didn't, you weren't starstruck like that.
No, I
Mhm.
absolutely wasn't. And I often say that that's why I think they hired me
Yeah.
because and I don't want to generalize, but for purposes of this conversation,
Yeah.
unfortunately, many people in Hollywood are very phony. And here I am, I come from the East Coast. I'm a little bit more blunt.
Yeah.
I got a little bit of that New York, swag where we're
Yeah.
really just direct.
Yep.
And I don't think that I certainly was not enamored by them. And I don't know if that was because maybe I was starting to grow an ego and my
Mm.
ego perhaps played a role in just saying like, hey, they're just a human being like I am,
Yeah.
like they take a shower probably the same way I take a shower. They often say they put their shoes on the way I put my shoes
Yeah.
on, but that I I honestly could say that they were just I was very fortunate to have great clients. I want to start with that. And none of the clients that I embezzled money from deserved it. And even the ones that I didn't embezzle from, I still embarrassed them. And they didn't
Yeah.
deserve that either.
Hmm.
But through my adversity and through my resiliency, as you said moments ago, I often say I am proud of who I've become and who I am becoming because what that insinuates is as in this moment I'm proud of myself for who I've become
Hmm.
and how I embraced all the adversities and viewed them like opportunities. But the becoming part means I still have progress in myself to grow.
Oh
And
yeah.
that's why I love my 12 step community because the whole thing is about progress, not perfection.
Yeah. Yeah. So you and so you get into high net worth individual management, you're feeling confident, but you had mentioned you were very outwardly confident, right? Outwardly. And I think, again, a lot of people can relate to this. Outwardly, everything's great. I got I got checking the boxes, putting on a happy face. Um, but you mentioned that there was, when you started embezzling, it was really hard for you to look in the mirror.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The first time I embezzled first dollars from a client, I just, again, sat by myself and said, why would you make such a bad choice? In that moment, I didn't even think about continuing with that behavior. But
Uh-huh.
with gambling, what happens is and this is what I alluded to earlier. I'm like, it's okay. I'll just borrow it, not take it, and I'll pay it back next week or whatever. And that next week grew to over 6 years not paying them back until ultimately I was caught for my criminal behavior. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, it was very, 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 very difficult to look at myself in the mirror.
Yeah.
I had to present to the outer world that I was Superman. But deep down inside, I was still very much insecure and not comfortable in my own skin. But nobody knew that except myself. I didn't have I wasn't comfortable at that point in my life to ask for help. And if
Mhm.
there's something that I could look back on, and there are many things I could look back on and wish I would have changed, I can't change that from yesterday, but I
Sure.
can certainly change that today and going forward. And
Yeah.
so that was that was I never liked gambling. And I know people sometimes when, like you said earlier in the introduction, like I'm very happy to put myself out there. I'm no longer seeking external validation like I did when I was, in
Beautiful.
my addiction. Validation for me simply comes from myself internally.
Yeah.
And so, but I also understand that when I put myself out there the way I'm comfortable doing, which is like I am with you today, there's going to be 50% of the people who don't believe that I'm humble. There's going to be 50% of the people that want to call me a name. And
Mhm.
I understand that. And that's their choice. And I
Mhm.
respect their judgment.
Yeah.
They have a right to feel what they believe they heard in my voice here today or my body language, as you said earlier.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that. I'm not, I rarely look at comments, but I do enjoy getting DMs on my Instagram saying the opposite of that and how can I help them? And I'm going to help them. Anyone who asks for help, I'm going to be there to help them to not make the same mistakes that I've made.
Mm. It's such a relatable. I commend you for getting to a place where that validation, because for me especially, that has been, anytime I've wanted to kind of ditch the podcast, it's been, oh, I got a couple trolls, or that troll was really specific and maybe they're right. And some of the things you're just like, damn, you are mean, but are you right? Maybe you're right. And then my husband will be like, are you serious? And I'm like, I don't know, but so I have more work to do to get there. But every time I press on and, hit publish or talk, it's a victory where you respect yourself for being, I'm putting me out there. And of course, there's going to be someone who doesn't like it. Of course.
Yes,
Right. Whereas I think
absolutely.
a couple of years ago, I think that would literally cripple me. A troll comment would send me into like a deep, I'd be like really in trouble. And now I'm like, ha, that was good. Like it's actually, I'm like, Ryan, look at this one. It says I'm a desperate, like, housewife wannabe, whatever. I'm like, oh, that's nice. That's actually funny. So it's amazing when you start to ask yourself, who am I? What am I trying to get out of this? Like someone to be like, great podcast. I approve of you, even though they have their own problems. I'm like, you know what I'm saying?
Right,
So,
right. Well, I've had two lessons in my life where I learned why not to judge a book by its cover. And when I was working in San Francisco in the financial district and living in Marin County early in my career before moving to LA to get into business management, Monday through Friday I would take they have great public transportation. So I would
yep,
take the bus from Marin right into, or the ferry right into the financial district. And Monday through Thursday, I wore a suit because that was the dress code.
yep.
But on Friday, my employer allowed us to be business casual.
Uh-huh.
So Monday through Thursday in the suit, I'm the same person, but I'm wearing a suit. They move over, they allow me to sit next to them. On Fridays, when I'm not wearing a jacket and maybe I'm wearing a button down with jeans or slacks, those same people would not move over and allow me to sit there. And that was really an eye-opening experience for me as a young adult at that time, to realize, wow, our society does judge a book by its cover. And again, even though I was naive that that existed, it was such a great learning experience for me on so many levels as I've moved forward in my life. And that same experience happened when I entered prison, actually,
I was just
where
gonna ask you about that. Like that, wow, like that must sorry to interrupt. I just
no,
that's gotta be a transformative experience in so many ways.
Yes, it was. And in prison, there's a lot of diversification, different religions, different
Yeah.
races, and just different people with different socioeconomic status or otherwise. And I learned there that when you really take the time to to know someone, I realized, at least for myself, that when I'm speaking to a drug dealer in prison and hearing how much they love their children or they love the mother of their children, that's the same values that I had
Mhm.
when I or have today, but where you love, their value system aligned with mine, I guess in short is what I'm trying to say,
Yes.
despite the different upbringing that we both had. And that really helped me to reduce any judgment that I may still have for other people. But
Yeah.
now I really take the time to get to know most people that are in my life.
And it's such a great reminder because it judgment, and we have no idea like how people got there. And I think you know, it's a humbling experience to just understand that like people make mistakes. And I just you actually you spent was it how many years did you spend did you end up serving?
So I was sentenced to 6 years in federal
Mm.
prison, and I did 34 months. I
Yeah.
was let out early because of COVID, and
Okay.
they required that I spend 16 months on home confinement with an ankle monitor as
Okay.
part of the agreement to be
Yeah.
released early. And
Yeah.
then it followed with 3 years of probation.
Mm.
So it's nice to no longer be on the watchdog list, if you will. But I still face challenges every day,
Yeah.
mostly financial challenges because the assets that I once had, I don't have anymore.
Sure.
But again, I could sit with the pile of bills and stare at them all day and play the victim role, or I could sit with them and be proactive and see how I can make a dent in each of my liabilities that I still have today from the
Yeah.
past.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's something that everyone can kind of take from your story is that you're accountable for your behavior, and you can experience the consequences of your choices, and that there is life after that. Like it's something that um obviously going into prison, if you don't mind kind of talking a little bit about that. Do you remember um like that first couple of days? Like was that just like how mentally did you get through that? Like was it
So
pretty yeah, like
yes, the first couple days the first couple 6 months, I didn't really accept where I was. I was crying every day. Today, I believe crying is cathartic, but probably
oh
wasn't
yeah.
appropriate inside a prison with a bunch of guys. But that's what
It's
you said earlier. My body was signaling to my mind that it was time to cry and cathartic to cry today, I believe. But then it was slightly embarrassing, but it was uncontrollable. I was scared.
oh
I
gosh.
was counting the days out of a 6 year sentence, 72 months, and I was like, oh my God, like I'm going to be here for the rest of my life. And so then a gentleman came up to me and he said, you got to stop crying, Jonathan. That gentleman became one of my closest friends that I met in my time, and we still speak a lot, both
Yeah.
currently. But and he said to me, stop counting the days. Besides, stop crying, stop counting the days. And I said, okay. So I started counting the Super Bowls. So for every Super Bowl, there was 1 year off of my sentence, and so on and so forth.
Mm,
But I did embrace my opportunity in prison. What I mean by that is I ran a victim impact program. I helped inmates identify their victims and make
okay.
maybe consider making amends to them, and maybe talking nicer to your wife on the phone, because I'm hearing you guys talk disrespectfully to your wife, who deserves all the credit in the world taking care of your kids while your choices led you here. So that
Mm,
was very rewarding for me. And I taught
yeah.
accounting. And I also
Uh-huh.
took classes from smarter guys than me there. And I learned a lot from them as well. So I read books, an
Mm-hmm.
enormous amount of books, books that I would
Mm-hmm.
never think to read. But I certainly picked up a healthy habit there. And I
Yeah.
exercised as best as I could. And I just made the best of it.
Yeah. It sounds like when you went from you went into acceptance mode, that's really when the taking accepting where you were and how can make the most of my time here somewhere I probably it's probably hard to grasp even now that was a chapter in your life, because it's just not something you think will happen, that's not
No,
not not in your life plan, but I think it's a humbling reminder that just I don't think anyone ever plans to end up there, and that to err is we're all human and we all make bad choices that to different degrees, right?
absolutely. And you said two words that I adopt every day of my life. And I don't like to use absolutes like every day. So I'll say most of my days. And one is acceptance, right? Living in acceptance is a huge thing for people in recovery. I
Mhm.
have long-term recovery, but I don't ever want to become complacent. So acceptance happens and surrendering is the sort of like a synonym to acceptance for us in recovery. So I surrender to my higher power on a daily basis for any challenges that I might confront or questions I have. And the other thing, besides acceptance, I forgot the word. I've got a little brain fog here, but it'll come back to me that you said that I also adopt. Oh, that's humility.
Mm.
Um, I brought ego into prison with me, and I needed to find humility because humility allowed me to drop my ego
Mm.
and to live further in acceptance, but also gave me an opportunity to reflect on all the poor choices of my past. And so that the plan was when I would re enter society, I would be the best version of myself, be that authentic person, um, and be committed to helping my brothers and sisters in the 12 step community and anybody else that wants help. And I think that became my calling, is to really genuinely help people not make the same mistakes that I made, and to give them the motivation they need to find inside their soul to overcome their adversity.
Mhm. Mhm. Well, and I commend your buddy, your friend who you still talk to for kind of telling you that, like, you gotta stop crying in a way, like, you gotta not you gotta move forward. You get to stop. You get to stop crying because you get to keep moving forward, right? Um,
Absolutely.
but I can definitely relate to the physical release, like your body, it just needs to get rid of stuff, right? At some point. If you don't mind, I'd love to talk about. I think it's really cool what you did, helping other inmates make amends, helping them learn how to better themselves. What have you learned about making amends? We all have people that we've done wrong. Um, I certainly have. Some I've apologized to. If I probably need to apologize tomorrow. I don't know. But what is your big lesson, or what have you learned about accountability and then about forgiveness through all this?
So forgiveness, I sponsor a lot of guys, but even for myself, forgiveness isn't so much for the recipient, it's for peace of our own mind, right? Absent making amends and just seeking forgiveness is not going to bring peace and contentment and tranquility to our mindset. And so in order to do that, we get to rid ourselves of resentments by making amends to
Hmm.
those that we harmed, when making amends to that recipient will not cause he or she any further harm. So there are certain people that I would like to make amends to, but because it will likely cause them further harm, I have chosen not to. under the direction of my higher power and my sponsor.
Mhm.
Um, but I think forgiveness is a big part. If you're in recovery, whether you're in recovery for one day or years, it's really important to learn forgiveness, because if we carry resentments, then we can go back to our old patterns and behaviors of yesterday. And if
Mhm.
we do that, the consequences are going to be even more severe today.
Mm. Yeah. It's, it's the big thing that keeps coming through is like the ego, right?
Hmm.
The ego dropping that. And I think it's also important, like, you know, if you're making amends with somebody, apologizing, and obviously, no matter how big or small your what you've done is, sometimes they accept it and sometimes they don't.
Right,
And like you said, it's if they accept it, that's great. But if they don't accept it, I think it's still a commendable and essential thing to do for yourself, and also just you're setting an example for others that, like, it's okay to admit that fucked up. I'm
right.
sorry, to be like, I really really screwed up and I'm really sorry and I'd really like to do better. And it's a noble thing to do, to be able to apologize, you know?
Absolutely. And it goes with like also in recovery, and I could talk about recovery all day. I just
Yeah.
love the recovery community. Recovery is, I always share with clients, because now I'm a therapist with a specialization in addiction and trauma. So one thing I share with them is first my life experience. And people say, well, why do you do that? Because therapists should not self-disclose unless they believe their experience can benefit the client. And because I
Mhm.
work in treatment centers and I am working with people with substance use and mental health challenges, they want someone who's just not an academia therapist, but a therapist that shares the commonality that they experienced, and that I can provide them with that commonality. But what I share with them, among many different coping skills, is that it's not healthy for someone in recovery to create an expectation. If we create an expectation and we do
Mhm.
not um, accomplish that expectation, then what happens? We get angry, we get irritable, we
Yeah.
spiral out of control. Now you're putting yourself at risk for a relapse. So rather than create an expectation, and you're right, like when you make amends, like when I make amends or my sponsees make amends, there shall be no expectation. You're doing it because it's probably the right thing to do.
Right.
And regardless of, like you said, regardless of the recipient's response, you can look yourself in the mirror and say you did the best you could and you had the courage to make amends. Because amends aren't easy to make, they're
No.
challenging.
No.
So
Yeah.
so we create goals. So that's what I encourage clients to do. And what's SMART goals, which is,
Yeah.
specific, measurable, and so on. And if you can make realistic goals, that's one thing.
Mhm.
But please don't create expectations, because if again, it's a very challenging for us in recovery to not accomplish what we want to accomplish.
Yeah. Well, and it comes back to that focus of loving yourself, right? Like, if you probably what gets you into addiction, and please correct me if I'm wrong, different things for everybody, but a piece of that is needing that external validation. It's this hole you can't fill, right?
Correct.
And the drugs or whatever your addiction is, if it's gambling, if it's, I mean, there's many addictions, right? Compulsive
Right.
shopping, exercising, gambling, drugs, food, there's all the things. And you are probably doing that to fill something. Then
Mm-hmm.
if you're apologizing to fill something, that's still using external to fill something. You have to start filling from yourself. Like, I finally get it. I mean, it took me 44 years. I'm like, when people would say, love yourself, I'm like, why? Why do you really need to? Like, isn't it better if
Right.
someone else? I remember thinking, well, isn't it if someone else loves you, that's like proof. I'm like, oh, that's horrible. That's actually awful. That's really bad. Don't do that. If you love you, that's gonna fill the hole more than anything. I mean,
Absolutely.
it's
Absolutely.
yeah. Okay, see, I'm all over the place. That's who I am. Tell me about, you mentioned a higher power. I would love to just hear what that means for you, because that's one of my favorite things to talk about is people's higher powers and what they lean on.
Sure. Well, the 12-step language to answer that would be, as you know, is my will, Jonathan's will
Yeah.
created all these poor choices and consequences, right? So if I still listened or followed my will, there's a
Uh-huh.
chance I would go back to my old patterns and behaviors. So dropping the ego, which the acronym for ego is edging God out, is if I can
Yeah.
drop that ego, which I've done, and I'm not spewing religion.
No, that was a
I'm just
huge
speaking spiritually, like, but
great.
that's what it stands for. And spiritually, surrendering to a power greater than myself is necessary for me, one, to continue with humility, to make sure that one of my million defects of character, like ego, doesn't resurface, and to just ask my higher power to give me guidance. I know this sounds silly, but I
No,
get messages
doesn't
from my higher power on a
doesn't I
daily
do too.
basis.
Sorry.
And sometimes I understand the message, other times I may not understand it in that moment, but I'm able, like, I have strong self-awareness today, which I never did in the
Mm,
past.
mm,
And that strong self-awareness reminds me that, to sit down as a mature adult with myself, use positive reality-based self-talk, and ask my higher power, please, I appreciate this subliminal message, but can you kind of give me a direct one now? Because I want your guidance. And so if I don't have it by the time I go to bed, more often than not, the morning when I wake up, that message is now clear. And that's the guidance I needed in a certain area of my life. And so,
mm,
simply put, I do need a power greater than myself because I convinced myself that I don't trust myself. Now,
mm,
do I trust myself today realistically? Yes. But by convincing myself I don't, I become risk adverse. And that's
mm,
important for me. And that's why I like to
mm.
call myself a nerd today.
Hey, nerds are cool. Do you ever, and again, if you don't mind me asking, do you find yourself battling it? Is it daily battle for you? Or is it more of like, because I've had different guests on talking about like struggling with addiction. It's a daily thing, right? I mean, it's you're just taking one day at a time.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, yes, I live one day at a time, absolutely. I'm
Yeah.
mindful today, I'm present today. Unfortunately, I thought I was a good father, when I was raising the boys, but as I've had time to reflect, yes, I was physically present, but I wasn't emotionally present. So I really place a strong value on being emotionally present today,
Yeah.
regardless of who's around me.
Yeah.
As for my own struggles, sure, I have struggles. Sometimes they're mild, sometimes they're moderate, and sometimes they're severe.
Mhm.
But bring them on, because with each one, I learn something new, and like
Yeah.
I'm no longer escaping from reality.
Oh, that's the big thing, right? The drugs were the escape and everybody the escapism of our culture, right? Like
Yeah.
not having to face what you know that you need to face. And trust me, I've had periods in my life where I didn't like looking in the mirror either because my therapist said mirror work is so great. When you look in the mirror, it's so powerful. It's
Yes.
like you know why you avoid it because that's where the real authenticity begins when you're like, so how you doing? Why are you doing that? Like all your choices come when you lock eyes with yourself, the choices that you know you shouldn't be making, for me at least, will be like, so what are you gonna do about that? Right?
It's true. I mean, I look in the mirror in the morning and in the evening, and sometimes I don't like what I see, but not as a human being. But let's
Mm,
say I haven't exercised in a long time, and I'm not comfortable with my body the way it is. I've gained
sure.
6 pounds. I'm okay. Like, and then that's where also acceptance comes in, Like, you know what? Accept, Jonathan, you're busy, you're working 12-hour days, you're helping people, you're helping yourself.
Yes.
Be kind to yourself, give myself a little self-compassion because even though I may not like what I see, I'm not going to sit there and judge, hey, you better lose 6 pounds by tomorrow. No, that's
Right.
not realistic. And I'm
Right.
okay being overweight for today.
Right.
And then at some point, when I'm ready, I'll introduce greater self-care, which is an
Yeah.
important component to my recovery. And I'll implement that, and I'll
Yeah.
start taking action. But for today, I'm okay with eating maybe a little bit, some cake.
Sure. Well, you can't shame yourself. Like we all have different sources of that shame, right? And the shame I've learned is like the fear of really like people rejecting you and like being disconnected from everyone. But I mean, I swear anything that you need to get through, it's like self compassion, both spiritually and it's been proven scientifically. Like self compassion is that antidote to shame.
Yes.
You cannot, and you have to give it to yourself. Like you can get compassion from everyone, but if you're not feeling it, like that shame is just going to stay there. It's going to stay there when everyone else is gone and the compliments fade, right?
Yes. And you know this, we can't live in shame and guilt because, again, that's like carrying things with us that are not healthy, and we must
No.
flush those out.
Yeah, yeah. Man, so let's talk about what you do now because I think it's fantastic. So you're talking to people who are in recovery at a treatment center. Um,
Yes.
Now, is the average person you're working with battling a substance of some kind, like
Yeah,
addiction?
so
Mhm.
yes, I work at two treatment centers. The main one is Altus Rehab in Encino. It's a luxury six-bed detox and residential. We have two beautiful homes, and I get to be a program director there as well as a therapist. And it's the happiest I've ever been in my life. I make average money at best, but I'm literally so much more fiscally responsible today than I was yesterday. Um, and I love walking into the treatment center every morning early and embracing and wishing good mornings and exchanging good mornings with the clients. And I get to see them later in the day for therapy and deal with their either mental health or substance use. So we're primary substance use, we're dual
Mhm.
diagnosis, secondary mental health.
Okay.
And it's just, I try my best. Therapists, I learned that we can try our best, but we might not be the best fit for everyone. And that's something
Mm.
that, again, we get to accept as therapists because maybe my style doesn't work with someone. As long as I try,
Yeah.
that's the best I can do. But I've been very fortunate to work with wonderful people from all across the country who have come out here and given us their their commitment. And now it's our job to give them the promises that we make in terms of our curriculum and how we believe we can help them.
Mm. Mm. Do you see is I mean, everything from alcohol, cocaine, prescription, and it seems like there's a shift now and people are starting to realize like how bad alcohol can be. Like, it's a socially accepted drug, right? Sometimes or
Yeah.
socially that's what my dad always used to tell me growing up. Brie, it's a socially accepted drug. And I'm like, okay, whatever, dad. Now I'm like, oh yeah, he's right. Um, but what are your thoughts on just do you like I don't even know what I'm asking, but I guess do you see that shift in like people waking up to what alcohol really is too as well? And I'm not trying to like hate on anyone who has an alcohol brand. I'm just saying it's it seems like people are waking up to how bad it can potentially be.
Yeah, alcohol is very prevalent right now. We're getting a lot of clients that are addicted to alcohol. Some have just recently overdosed and were hospitalized, and the hospital would send them to us. I mean, alcohol is dangerous.
Yeah.
But we're seeing it across the gamut. We're seeing alcohol, we're seeing, opioids, we're seeing cannabis induces psychosis today, and we're trying to encourage clients that come in with cannabis withdrawal to recognize that when I was growing up, cannabis was called grass. It didn't have the same potency, but
Very
today,
different.
within purchasing from the dispensaries, the chemicals and the potency is so great that there's clinical evidence that states cannabis can induce psychosis. So that's really a challenge for people to
Yeah.
accept that and recognize that. I would say there's so many unique drugs. First of all, any drug today, including cannabis, can be mixed with any type of other drug. And we're unfortunately seeing clients think that they're smoking marijuana, and what they're realizing is they're smoking meth or they're smoking fentanyl or
Oh,
Adderall. And
yeah.
so for anyone out there that's please be careful because it's really dangerous and we're seeing people die as a result to thinking they're taking one drug, even though that drug is not
It-
a healthy drug to take, but it's now mixed with other chemicals and drugs that can actually kill them. Sorry, I'm just
No, no. It's the awareness piece is so huge because even if you're not intending to take the quote unquote bad one, you don't even know what you're getting.
It's sad. And the worst drug that we've seen, and believe it or not, I don't know where you live if they sell this in their smoke shops, but it's called kratom. And what happens with kratom is now they've created kratom on steroids with a thing called 7-OH. And from what I understand, and so we've had people come into our treatment center who have been experienced withdrawing from many drugs,
Mm.
and their withdrawal symptoms have never been as severe as they are with this kratom. And unfortunately, it's sold at smoke shops. Now, I think the federal government is trying to make a push to remove them off the shelves, and I hope they do because people can die and it's too accessible for them today.
Yeah. It's it's uh it's wild to me just how easy it is to kind of get these like lethal these things that cause such devastation, but goodness. So what do you when you look back on sort of all these different phases of your life, right? And I think we all look back on like the story of our life, and we all have adventures in adversity in different formats, right? Um, it seems like you're in a chapter now where all of the previous chapters are being put to really good use, if that makes sense. Meaning you're taking all of those experiences and, as my friend Sylvie likes to say, like alchemizing them into something good. And what I think is super cool about counselors, therapists, is when you're helping somebody heal, when they go off into the world, you're literally impacting every single person that they then interact with.
That's such a great point because when clients come into treatment, you've ruptured your family dynamics.
Oh yeah.
So that's why it's important that we do family sessions on
Uh-huh.
top of individual sessions because we want you to leave here with most of your unresolved issues you walked in our treatment center with, like trauma, but
Mhm.
also relationships with loved ones. And it takes a while to have them accept that their poor choices and their behaviors hurt a lot of people, just like mine. And I'm still 10 years into, almost 10 years into my abstinence and sobriety, earning back trust of my loved ones too.
Yeah.
And that's what I can model for them. But I try my best to, if they're willing to see my actions, they're going to see a different person. So I encourage clients when they walk in to realize, let's get started on your family. Not the first week, let's get to know each other, but
Sure.
maybe week 2 or week 3, we'll begin to start asking family members if they want to participate in sessions.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's unbelievable the ripple effect when the people just want to be seen and heard, right? Like they just want to be, it sounds so like simple where you're like, well, that's easy. But when you're in a therapeutic session and you are able to like let go and really figure out why you're doing the things you're doing, um, but then not shaming yourself. That's the trick, right? It's
Right.
the trick because you discover all this stuff, but then it's sort of like giving it a hug and being like, okay, well, like, what are we gonna do with that? What are we gonna do with that moving forward, right? Um, yeah. Uh, what are you most excited about in your life? And I know it's a big question, but what are you most excited about these days?
Most excited about like a passion project that I have.
Anything,
Uh,
yeah, or like what's coming up for you that you'd like to anything that's just
my hope is within 9 months to 10 months, there'll be a book about my story that's out there.
okay,
And it's going to be followed by a movie. And
okay.
it's going to allow me, with God willing, the success it has, I hope, will allow me to tour the world and spread my message as you do with your podcast.
Yeah,
And if I could help people, then that's where my passion lies.
that's what it's all about, right? All of the adversity that we make it through, and every single guest, it's a really common theme that they go through this really tough stuff, and now everyone wants to help people. See what I'm saying? Like you get humbled by the darkness, whatever that means for you. Your darkest
Yes.
moment, maybe you lost somebody, maybe you made a bad decision, maybe you spent time in prison, maybe you got divorced, whatever that dark thing is, you come out of it just right? You come out of it in a almost like glad that you went through it. Not in a, I don't know how to, not glad you went through it, but the way you feel after you really hit the bottom, and you make it through. I think there's something in all of us that you like just want to be like, don't do this so that you don't have to end up on the ground. Um,
Right.
you know what I mean?
Yes. I needed to, honestly, as I look back, I needed time in prison. I mean, did I need as much time as I received? No, but that wasn't up to me. That was up to the judge, which I respect her decision. But I needed that time because absent that time, when would I have found the time to discover and to reflect on all of my poor choices of yesterday? And so it really gave me an opportunity to become, as I said earlier, the person that to you today I can once again say I'm proud of who I've become and
Yeah.
proud of who I am becoming.
Yeah. The road to get there isn't always the one that we it's not that line where you just get to perfectly become what you want. And I think it's just a reminder to everybody who's listening to this episode to really just think before we judge, because there's a, and I think you don't really know what's going on in somebody's heart. You don't know their past. And I think meeting you and connecting with you is just such a great reminder of like the power of our choices, but the power to like embrace those choices we aren't so proud of. And there's a beauty to it when you talk about it, that I think you're going to make a lot of people feel hopeful that the mistakes they made don't have to be like where they stop, you know? Because
Yes.
if you can go through that and come out and being able to like embrace it and talk about it, I really commend you for that. It's a big deal, and it's gonna, somebody listening is gonna be like, wait, okay, that's tough. Okay, I can do this. I can do this. You know,
Yes, I hope so.
absolutely. Well, I would love to have you back when the book and the movie come out.
Deal.
You know, I think it's brave. I think it's honorable, to just show your humanity and like share your story. And we're gonna put all of the links to your information where people can find out more about you, in the show notes here. And Jonathan, is there anything you'd like to leave with the listeners or for anyone out there before we kind of wrap it up?
Yes, I would like to encourage them to ask for help because they're worth it. They just gotta simply ask for help.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Well, with that, we're going to wrap up episode 71. Again, please, please, if you're struggling out there, whether it's with any kind of addiction, or you're just struggling to get out of bed, know that, you know, you're not alone. People like Jonathan have seen the darkest of times and have been willing to share how they got through it. And so, again, thank you so much. And Jonathan, I can't wait to see, you know, how many people you continue to help. And just really really grateful to meet you.
I'm grateful to be on your podcast. I'm grateful for what you're doing with your listeners and the messages that you are spreading as well. So thank you for being you.
Absolutely, thank you, I'll take it, I will take
All
that
right.
compliment. All right, well, take care and we will connect soon.
Thank you.
Bye.